She saved the most dangerous Korean Mafia boss with a kiss. Now he won't let her go. No one in their right mind would have touched him. The man lying on the rain-soaked pavement was more myth than flesh. A whispered name in dark alleys. A ghost that made powerful men tremble. Blood pooled beneath him, mixing with the neon reflections of a city. His breathing shallow, fading, dangerous even in silence. She should have walked away. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to forget what she'd seen, to pretend he was already dead. Because men like him didn't belong in the world of ordinary people. They ruined lives. They ended them. But then his fingers twitched. And for a brief, impossible second, his eyes opened, sharp, lethal, and locking onto hers like he'd chosen her in that very moment. That was her mistake. She knelt anyway. Her hands trembled as she checked for a pulse. Her heart racing faster than reason could keep up. He was slipping fast. Too fast. Without thinking, without understanding why she even cared, she did the only thing she could to keep him breathing. She kissed him, not out of love, not out of desire, but desperation. A single breath passed between them, and everything changed. Because the moment his lungs filled again, the most dangerous man in Korea didn't just survive. He remembered her. And from that night on, she was no longer free. She was 26 years old, 5'6", wearing scrubs that had seen better days, and she said it again with a voice that belonged to her mother. The voice that meant there was no version of this where she did not get what she needed. Move. The tallest one stepped aside. She dropped to her knees beside the dying man. His chest was making a sound she recognized. Wet, sucking wrong. Tension pneumothorax. Air collecting where it had no business being. His lung was collapsing in real time, and she had maybe 4 minutes before it didn't matter how many men with guns were in the room. She looked at his face. He was Korean, enormous in a way that was unusual, built like something that had decided early in life that it would not be moved by anything. His suit was expensive. His watch was more expensive. His eyes, even with death sitting directly on his chest, were the most awake eyes she had ever seen. Black, completely black, and they found her face and stayed there. He said one word. Help. She was already moving. She got the needle in between the second intercostal space, mid-clavicular line, exactly where every textbook said to go, and exactly where months of emergency training had put the muscle memory. The hiss of released air was the most beautiful sound in the room. His breathing changed. Still wrong, still ragged, but no longer drowning. The knife wound was a different problem. Deep, left chest, close enough to the heart that her hands wanted to shake. She did not let them shake. I need someone to hold him still, she said, already moving for her supply cabinet. And one of you needs to call a real. No hospitals. The tall one. Flat. Final. She turned and looked at him across the room. He needs a surgeon. I am not a surgeon. I have bought him minutes, not. Whatever you need. We will bring it here. Are you insane? Mississippi. His voice dropped. You don't know who this man is. I know he's going to die in the next 10 minutes if I don't close this wound. Then make sure he doesn't die. She stood in her clinic, in the fluorescent light, with blood on her floor and guns in her doorway, and she made the only choice she was capable of making. She called Dr. Park Hyun-soo at 3 a.m. and told him she needed him to talk her through a field surgery. He answered on the second ring. He asked one question, "Where are you?" And when she told him, there was a silence, and then, "What do you need?" For 47 minutes, while 3 men in suits stood against her wall like statues, Dr. Park talked her through every step. Irrigation, debridement, suturing in layers. The man on the table fought through most of it. Not the body fighting, the person fighting, conscious and tracking her with those black eyes in a way that made her want to tell him to stop. That was deeply distracting to be watched that intently by someone she was trying to keep alive. She told him exactly that. "Stop watching me," she said at one point. "You're not helping." His mouth moved. She leaned in. "You're good at this," he said. "You're terrible at dying quietly," she told him. "Most people pass out." Something happened on his face that might have been a smile if he'd had the energy for it. By 4:30 a.m., the bleeding had stopped. His vitals were poor but stable. He was going to live. She sat back on her heels and looked at her hands. They were shaking now, Now that it was over, now that permission had arrived for her body to react. She pressed them flat against her thighs and breathed. The tall, suited man crouched beside her. He will live. If he rests. If he gets proper imaging. If. He will live, the man said, like he was choosing for it to be true. He reached into his jacket and placed a thick envelope on her tray table. For your trouble, he said. I don't want your money. It isn't a payment, he said. It's a deposit. And then, with a precision that should have terrified her, for more men appeared, produced a portable stretcher from a vehicle outside, transferred the patient, and walked out. Smooth as water. Gone. The broken doors swung in the night air. Amara sat on her floor. She looked at the envelope. She looked at the blood on her linoleum. She looked at where the man had been. Amara, she said quietly to the empty room. You idiot. She didn't sleep. She spent the hours before dawn cleaning, blood off the floor, off the table, off her instruments, working the way her mother had taught her to handle overwhelming things. One small section at a time. Don't look at the whole, just the piece in front of you. By 6 a.m., the clinic looked normal. By 6:15, Annie Dorcas was at the back door with 2 cups of tea and the expression of a woman who had heard things in the night and chosen, with great wisdom, not to ask questions. They drank their tea. Auntie Dorcas patted her hand once, refilled her cup, and went back to her kitchen. Amara opened the envelope. She counted it. She sat very still for a long time. There was enough money to pay every debt she had in Korea. The back rent, the borrowed money, the supplier bills, all of it, gone, with money left over. She put it back, locked it in her cabinet, told herself it was over. A strange night, an unusual patient. She would return the money somehow, and it would be finished. She believed this completely. She was magnificently wrong. The first sign came at noon. 2 black vehicles parked across the street. Not in a space, just parked, the way people parked when consequences weren't a concern they carried. And leaning against the first vehicle, scanning every direction, was the tall, suited man from last night. He was guarding the building. Amara went back to her patient and tried to concentrate. The second sign came at 4 p.m. A delivery. New clinic door. Pre-hung, with hardware, with a small handwritten note. Apologies for the damage. She stared at it for a very long time. Then she called Kim Jae-soo. Jae-soo was her best friend in Seoul. Professor's daughter, for languages, a network of connections she wielded with cheerful, devastating efficiency. She had adopted Amara 3 weeks after her arrival and inserted herself with a thoroughness that Amara was always grateful for and occasionally wanted to flee from. I need you to find someone, Amara said. Find who? Instantly alert. Jae-soo loved the mission. Korean man. Enormous build. Black eyes. Came into my clinic last night with a knife wound. Silence. Amara. I know. A knife wound. He needed help. Amara, do you know how many Koreans are getting knife wounds in Itaewon at 3 a.m. who are not? Can you find him or not? A very long pause. Rapid diping sons. Give me everything, Jae-soo said. Every detail. His watch. His men. The cars. Amara gave her everything. The watches. The suits. The way the men moved, practiced, coordinated, not military but something adjacent. The vehicles. The door that was replaced before morning. Jae-soo was quiet for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice had changed. I need you to listen to me very carefully. You found him. Return whatever they gave you. Don't contact them. If any of their people come near you, smile, say nothing, and call me immediately. A pause. His name is Kang Jae-won. He runs the Afro-Korean. The Afro-Korean. Everyone in Itaewon knew that name, even while pretending they didn't. The Black Dragon. Oldest, most powerful organized crime syndicate in Seoul. Fingers in everything. Real estate, entertainment, import, protection, and things people did not say in public. Kang Jae-won ran it. And she had saved his life with her hands and her voice and a cannula she'd improvised from secondhand equipment. Amara? Jae-soo's voice, careful. What are you going to do? I'm going to go check on my patient, Amara said. Amara. She hung up. Finding him was not difficult. The tall, suited man. She would learn his name was Han Juno, Jae-won's head of security, and the closest thing he had to a friend was parked outside the clinic. When she knocked on the window, he looked unsurprised, like he'd been waiting. "I want to check on him," she said. As his doctor, Han Juno studied her, something calculated behind the stillness. "He asked about you," he said finally. "This morning. First thing." She had no response to that. "Get in," he said. They drove her to a building in Gangnam. Quiet street, low-profile exterior, nothing to suggest what was inside. But the top floor was clean and spare and expensive in a way that whispered rather than announced itself. Art on the walls that probably cost more than most people's houses. In a bedroom large enough to contain her entire clinic, Kang Jae-won was in a hospital bed that had clearly been delivered and assembled in the last few hours. For line, monitors, the whole setup materialized through sheer organizational will. He was awake. Those eyes found her immediately. "You came," he said, voice deeper than she remembered. Clearer, each word deliberate. "I came to check your wound," she said. Professional, detached, and to tell you that you need proper imaging. "I don't have the equipment to rule out internal complications." "I have doctors." "Then why aren't they here?" "They're less interesting than you." She stopped at the foot of the bed. "Mr. Kang, I'm going to be direct." "Please," he said, like he was genuinely looking forward to it. "Last night was an emergency. I helped because I cannot watch someone die when I can prevent it. But I am not your doctor. I'm not affiliated with your organization. Whatever money your man left will be returned. And whatever obligation you feel you owe me, you're released from it. We are finished." He looked at her for a long moment. "You performed a field decompression and sutured a near-cardiac laceration in a backroom clinic at 3 a.m. with no proper equipment," he said. "Yes." "Without knowing who I was." "Correct. And your position is that we are finished." "Yes." Another silence. "Sit down, Dr. Osei." "I prefer to stand." "Then stand." He shifted, and a slight tension crossed his face that told her it cost him. "I'm not trying to obligation you. I'm trying to understand you. You came here, which means you're curious. Humor me." He had her there. She pulled up a chair. They talked for 2 hours. She could not explain it afterward in any way that felt adequate. She had come to deliver a short, firm speech, and 2 hours later, she was still in that chair, while Kang Jae-won asked questions with the focused intensity of someone who did nothing casually. He wanted to know where she was from. Not dismissively, genuinely. He wanted to know about Abadan and Accra, about studying medicine in Lagos, about the fellowship, about the backroom clinic. When she described it, the community it served, the people who came because they had nowhere else to go, something shifted in his expression. "You risk your fellowship for this," he said. "It's worth it." "Why?" "Because they need it. Because the system doesn't reach them. Because I can help, and choosing not to would make me someone I don't want to be." She paused. "You're looking at me strangely." "I'm trying to understand something," he said. "What?" "Whether you're brave or reckless." "My best friend says both." She's probably right. Something that was definitively a smile, brief, contained. "My entire life, people approach me for one of 3 reasons. They want something, they fear me, or they owe me." He looked at her steadily. "You don't want anything. You're not afraid. And I owe you." "I told you you don't." "I owe you," he said. Quiet but final, the kind of finality that closed the door on argument. "And I'm not a man who carries debts." She changed his dressing. Checked the suture line. Holding, clean, no infection. Strong cardiovascular baseline. His body was fighting back with the same stubbornness the rest of him operated with. "No movement for at least a week," she said. "No meetings. No stress. I have meetings tomorrow. Then you'll tear a suture and bleed out in your very expensive chair," she said pleasantly. "Your choice." He almost smiled again. "Will you come back?" he asked. "To check. Send your results to a real doctor." "Will you come back?" he said again. Not rephrasing, just repeating with patience the way a person repeats themselves when they know the answer they want. She looked at him. "I'll come back Thursday," she said, "to remove the dressing." "Thursday," he agreed. She left. In the elevator, she pressed her back against the wall and closed her eyes. Her heart was beating too fast. She told herself it was adrenaline. She was lying. Thursday came, and Friday, and the following Monday. Each visit, she told herself, was the last one. She told herself she was monitoring a wound, completing a medical obligation, acting out of professional duty. She told herself many things while driving across Seoul 3 times a week and sitting in that room, talking with Kang Jae-won for hours. The wound healed, cleanly, quickly. By the second week, the sutures were out. There was no medical reason to keep coming. She kept coming. Here is what nobody tells you about men like Kang Jae-won. The world gives you a specific version, cold, brutal, monosyllabic, communicating primarily through threats and silences. And some of that was true. He was the most controlled human being she had ever met. Every expression calibrated, every word chosen. He moved through conversations the way a chess player moved through a game, seeing 15 steps ahead, never revealing his position. But in that room, with her, he was different. The first time she realized it, they were arguing about something small, whether his dietary restrictions were medically sensible. And he laughed. A real laugh. Not polished, not performed. He laughed and looked genuinely surprised he had. And for just a moment, something underneath the control was visible. Something younger, something unguarded. Then it was gone, and the mask was back. But she had seen it, and he knew she had seen it. Something shifted between them after that. Jisoo was, predictably, losing her mind. "How many times have you been to see him this week?" she demanded, over coffee on a Thursday afternoon. "Twice. Amara. He's a patient. He is healed, Amara. You said so yourself. Why are you still going?" "He's interesting." She wrapped both hands around her coffee cup. "I know how that sounds. I know who he is. But he is one of the most intelligent people I have ever spoken to. And he listens. When I talk about the clinic, when I talk about my patients, he actually... Amara." Jisoo's voice went very gentle. "Beautiful, brilliant, absolutely reckless Amara. You are falling for him. I am not. You are. I'm not falling for a Korean mob boss, Jisoo. You are literally living in a drama." She gestured wildly. "You saved a crime lord. He sent you a door. You keep visiting a healed wound. I'm going to leave now. And you blush when you talk about him." Amara stood up, put on her coat, and walked to the door. "That man is dangerous, Amara." She paused. "I know," she said. She left. And as she said it, she understood that she had answered only one part of the question. If you're already gripped, and I know you are, drop a like right now. It tells the algorithm this story deserves to be seen. Now, let's keep going. The night everything changed, again, started with a phone call. Not from Jae-won. He rarely called. He texted, brief and direct. Thursday confirmed or question about medication interaction. Is evening acceptable? Or once, a single message that read, "The mango rice Annie Dorcas makes. Is it available tomorrow?" Which meant he had been researching her life, which should have alarmed her more than it did. The call was from a number she didn't recognize. She almost didn't answer. "Dr. Osei," said a male voice she didn't know. Korean. Very controlled. "My name is not important. What's important is that you understand the danger of your current situation." She went very still. "Who is this?" "Someone trying to help you. You've been seen. Multiple times. Entering and leaving the Gangnam residence. There are people watching Kang Jae-won very closely right now. People who are not his friends. A foreign woman visiting repeatedly is the kind of detail that gets noticed and investigated." Her pulse was loud. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you're not part of this world, and you shouldn't suffer for wandering into it. Stop your visits. Do it now, tonight. When his people contact you, and they will, don't go." The call ended. She sat with her phone for a long time. Then she called Han Juno. He picked up on the first ring. "Someone just called me," she said. "About Jae-won. About being watched." A pause. Then, with a calmness that told her he already knew, "Are you safe?" "I'm Fine. What is happening?" "I need you to stay where you are. Lock the door." What is happening, Han Juno?" Another pause. And then, "There's a faction moving against him. 3 months. They want the Hukryong without Jae-won in it. The attack, the knife, that wasn't random. That was an attempt. An assassination attempt," she said flatly. "Yes. And they failed. Because of you." The room felt smaller. "And now they know about me," she said. "We don't know how much. But yes." Han Juno's voice tightened in a way she hadn't heard before. Amara SSI. Let me send someone. I can hear him, she said. He's there with you, isn't he? Silence. Put him on, Han Juno. Amara. Put him on. Rustling. A door. And then a voice lower than usual, with a quality she couldn't name. Amara. You knew, she said. You knew they'd come after people connected to you. And you kept letting me come. I was handling it. That is not, she stopped. Started again. Her voice was shaking, and she hated it. I'm not one of your people. I'm not someone you handle. I have a clinic. I have patients. I have a life that exists entirely outside of yours, and you had no right. Amara. His voice was quiet. Not defensive. Not commanding. Just quiet. I know. That stopped her. I know, he said again. I made a choice I should have discussed with you. I won't justify it. I only want to know that you're not hurt. I'm not hurt. Good. A pause. I need to see you. Absolutely not. Not at the residence. Somewhere neutral. Somewhere crowded. Tomorrow morning. Another pause. Then, please. That word. From him. She had learned enough about Kang Jae-won to know he did not use it easily. Coffee place on Usaid in a row, she said. 9 a.m. If you're late, I won't wait. She hung up. She lay in her apartment and stared at the ceiling and had the most ruthlessly honest conversation with herself she'd had in years. What are you doing, Amara? What do you think this is? He ran an organization that did terrible things. She didn't romanticize that. She wasn't imagining love would reform what years of choice had built. He was what he was. He had made his choices. They had consequences she couldn't fully see. But he was also the most honest person who had ever sat across from her. He told the truth, even when it was dangerous. He saw her, not the performer of competence she showed the world, but the actual woman underneath. And she was already in. The problem was not that Kang Jae-won was dangerous. The problem was that she was already there, and the only question now was how deep. He was already there when she arrived. This annoyed her more than it should have. She had been prepared to arrive first, to have the high ground of being seated and composed and in control of her own expression. Instead, he was there at a corner table, in clothes noticeably less expensive than anything she'd seen him in, dark sweater, plain trousers, and he had chosen a seat with his back to the wall and a clear line of sight to every entrance. Some things operated on instinct regardless of what a man wore. Han Juno was outside. She saw him through the window as she walked in. Jae-won stood when she entered. She stopped. He stood in a coffee shop because she walked in. It was such a simple thing, such an ordinary human thing, and something about the naturalness of it, the way it seemed to happen without calculation, made her chest do something complicated. You're early, she said, sitting down. I'm always early, he said, sitting. You're exactly on time. I said 9. You're the type of person who means exactly what they say. A server came. They ordered coffee. He ordered hers without asking. Americano, light ice, no sugar. And she noted that he had learned how she took her coffee at some point in the past weeks and chose not to address it. Tell me about the faction, she said. No softening. He told her. For 20 minutes, in a low, even voice, he described the internal politics of an organization that most of Seoul pretended didn't exist. A lieutenant. 11 years of patience. 3 attempts, 2 on his inner circle, then him. The knife in her clinic was the third move. They're trying to isolate you, she said. He looked at her. Classic destabilization. Remove support structure first, then the center. She wrapped her hands around her cup. Why haven't you moved against them directly? Because I don't yet know how far the infection spreads. If I move before knowing exactly who's involved, I risk triggering an internal war I can't contain cleanly. Better to watch. Wait. Let them believe they're succeeding. Dangerous game. Everything in my world is dangerous. He looked at her steadily. Which is why you shouldn't be in it. Then why did you ask me here? Because you deserve the truth of what you're in the middle of. He paused. And because the clinic, your backroom clinic, I want to help it. She blinked. What? Legitimate supply chains. Grupo Armacéuticos. Equipment. A legal structure that protects you from the fellowship clause. Why? Because it's needed. And because you build it alone and shouldn't have to keep defending it alone. And what do you want in return? The question hung between them. He met her eyes without flinching. Nothing. People like you don't do things for nothing. People like me, he said quietly. You keep saying that, as if I'm a category instead of a person. That landed. Quietly, without heat. It landed. She looked at him across the table. The morning light came through the windows and hit him differently out here, less severe than the clinical room, less managed. There was a small scar above his left eyebrow she hadn't noticed before. His hands, around his cup, were not hands that only issued orders. They were hands that had worked, that had built things. Let me think about the clinic, she said. He nodded. Just that. And Jae-won. First name, no title. He noticed she saw the tiniest shift in his stillness. The people who called me last night. The threat. What happens to me if your situation escalates? Nothing happens to you, he said. Immediate. Flat. Absolute. That's not within your control. Amara. He leaned forward just slightly. I have been in control of the uncontrollable my entire life. I don't make promises I'm not capable of keeping. Nothing happens to you. I give you my word. She should have challenged that. She should have pushed back, maintained the distance she'd been performing. Instead, she looked at him, this dangerous, controlled man in a plain sweater ordering her coffee correctly and promising things with his whole face. And she said, okay. That was the moment. The edge of the cliff. She just didn't know it yet. 3 weeks after the coffee shop, the clinic became legitimate. She watched Bernard come in for a proper chest x-ray. Watched a Congolese mother bring her 3-year-old for vaccinations. Watched Annie Dorcas cry, just a little, in the kitchen. She pushed the complicated feelings down and was grateful. Whatever was happening between her and Jae-won continued. They did not label it. They were careful with each other in the way of two people walking towards something in the dark, both aware of the edge, neither willing to say stop first. He came to the clinic once, unannounced, late on a Wednesday evening. He stood in the doorway and looked around at everything. The tables, the supply cabinet, the small framed photograph of her mother on the wall. He looked at the photograph for a long time. She has your eyes, he said. She has my eyes. I have hers. Amara didn't look up from her notes. There's a difference. Is there? It matters to her. He smiled. The real one. I'd like to meet her, he said, casually, like he wasn't detonating something. You'd terrify her. I'm very charming with mothers. You're absolutely not. Han Yun-ho says I'm charming. Han Juno is paid to say positive things about you. Han Juno has never in his life said anything positive he didn't mean. He stepped further into the clinic, looked at the supply cabinet. You need more amoxicillin. I know. I'll arrange it. She opened her mouth, saw the look on his face, patient, warm, waiting for her to argue herself into accepting something she already wanted, and closed it again. Fine, she said. Fine. He sat in the patient chair. She stayed behind her desk. The architecture of professional distance, maintained even as it became increasingly theoretical. Tell me about your worst day in medicine, he said. Why? Because you always ask about my life. I want to know about yours. She looked at him. Then she told him about a patient she had lost in Lagos early in her training. A woman named Folake, 42 years old, with a condition that was entirely treatable if caught earlier, who had delayed because she was afraid of the cost, who had died on a ward with her daughter waiting outside. Her voice stayed even through the whole thing. Professional. And at the end she stopped, and there was a silence. And when she looked up, he was watching her with an expression she had never seen on him before. Not pity. Something else. Something that felt like being truly, completely seen. She's why you built this, he said softly. She pressed her lips together. Nodded. He reached across the desk. His hand covered hers on the desktop. Not grasping. Just present. Still. Like he was saying, I hear you. I am here. They sat like that for a long time in the little clinic while Seoul moved through its evening outside. She looked at their hands. His, hers. The impossible combination of them. She thought, I am in so much trouble. The night of the kiss was not romantic. She wanted to be honest about that afterward. It was not candlelight or a planned perfect moment. It was chaos and fear and adrenaline. And the kiss happened the way things happen in crises. Fast before the rational mind can overrule the rest of you. It was a Thursday. She was leaving the Gangnam residence after what had become their standing Thursday evening. Not medical anymore, just them. They had eaten. They had argued pleasantly about something. She was putting on her coat in the entryway. Han Juno burst through the door. Not walked. Burst. The same energy as that first night, and her nervous system responded to it immediately. Everything standing up, snapping to attention. "We have a problem," he said to Jae-won. Then, seeing her face, "You need to go. Now." A sound outside. Shouting. Fast, sharp Korean that she wasn't fluent enough to fully parse, but she caught enough. "They're here." Multiple. Armed. Jae-won moved. She did not fully register how fast until he was already beside her, his hand on her arm, pulling her back from the entryway. "Han Juno," he said, already calling. Han Juno said, phone to his ear, moving toward the window. More sounds. Closer. A percussion she recognized and didn't want to recognize. Jae-won. Her voice was too high. She corrected it. "What do I do?" "You stay behind me," he said. Flat. Not a request. "I am not Amara." He turned and faced her fully. Both hands cupped her face, and it was the first time he had touched her like that, and she would have thoughts about it later. Except in the moment, all she could process was the directness of his expression. No performance. No control. Just, "You stay behind me. That is all you need to do." "Okay," she said. Events were fast after that. Han Juno's team appeared from everywhere and nowhere and responded to what was outside with the efficient violence of people very good at their jobs. Minutes of terrible noise. Jae-won kept her in a back corridor, his body between her, and every sound, immovable, as she could feel the tension in him, coiled, ready, not afraid. Then it stopped. Han Juno appeared in the corridor entrance. Gave Jae-won a look. Jae-won's shoulders dropped the tiniest degree. "Contained," Han Juno said. Jae-won turned to her. She was fine. Physically completely fine. But her body had spent 6 minutes convinced she was about to die, and the aftermath was arriving now. Shaking hands, unsteady breath, eyes that were embarrassingly wet. "Hey," Jae-won said, quietly. "I'm okay," she said. Her voice betrayed her completely. "I know." One step toward her. She did not step back. She kissed him. She wants to be precise about that. She kissed him first. She reached up and pulled him down to her and kissed him in that corridor, with Han Juno pointedly looking at anything else and adrenaline still electric in her blood. He kissed her back. If the first night was the moment her life changed, this was the moment it became something without a map. Something she would have to navigate entirely on her own. He pulled back first. Barely. His forehead touched hers. His eyes were closed. "Amara," he said. Just her name. "I know," she said. Neither moved. This is the part where everything becomes impossible and beautiful and terrifying at the same time. If you want episode 2 to drop the second it's ready, subscribe, comment right now, and hit that bell. Don't risk missing what comes next. Keep going. After the kiss, nothing was the same. They sat across from each other 2 days later in the Gangnam apartment and talked with the kind of honesty most people spend their whole lives avoiding. "What this is has consequences," she said. "For me, for my clinic, for my fellowship, for my visa, for my safety." She listed them steadily. "And your situation isn't resolved, which means I remain a vulnerability." "Yes," he said. "All of that is true. And I don't want to lose you from my life. That is also true." He held her eyes. "I'm telling you both things. The danger and the truth. What you do with them is your choice." "My choice," she repeated. "Always." She sat with it. This enormous, complicated thing. She knew what he was. She didn't romanticize it. She knew the choices he'd made and the structure he'd built and the things she'd have to choose not to ask about. But she also knew he was the most honest person who'd ever sat across from her. She knew he saw her. She knew he was trying, slowly, within his limits, to become something different, and she was already in. "I'm not walking away," she said. Something broke open in his face. "Just for a second." "You should," he said. "Probably," she agreed. "But I'm not." He was quiet. "Then, I need you to trust me. About the faction. About the resolution. It's close. But close means dangerous. I know what it means. And I need you to trust me. I'm not someone who breaks. I'm not someone you protect from information. Tell me what I need to know to be safe, and I will handle it. He studied her. My entire organization, he said, slowly. And I cannot find a single person who speaks to me the way you do. That should concern you, she said. It does, he said, and it doesn't. The resolution came 17 days later. She was not present for it. This was Jae-won's world, the consequences of the life he'd built before she arrived, and the cleaning of his own house was his. She didn't ask how. Some doors she chose not to open. What she knew. On a Tuesday morning, Han Juno called and said, simply, "It's done. He wants you to come." Jae-won was at the floor-to-ceiling window when she arrived, dressed, put together, showing nothing. But when she walked in, he turned, and she could see it, the exhaustion of a man who had been carrying something very heavy for a very long time and had finally set it down. She walked to him. He put his arms around her, his chin on top of her head. They stood at the window. "Is it over?" she asked. "This part," he said. "What does the next part look like?" He was quiet for a moment. "Different. I'm making changes." They were walking along the Han River. Low golden light. He was telling her about a project, legitimate investment in a medical supply distribution company, something he was structuring carefully, something that could create real pathways for clinics across the city. She was half listening. The other half of her was just looking at him. He stopped walking. "You're not listening," he said. "I'm listening. You have the face you make when you're thinking about something else. I have many faces. You have three," he said. "Matter of fact, clinical focus, genuine amusement, and thinking about something else. That's the third one. You've been paying extremely close attention." "Yes." He turned to face her fully. "What are you thinking about?" The river moved. The light moved. Everything was still and gold. "I'm thinking," she said, "that I love you." His face did the thing it almost never did. All the control, all the calibration, all 17 layers of management gone. Just a man on a riverbank looking at a woman who had just said the most unexpected thing in the world. He said nothing for a moment. "Then say it again." "I love you," she said. "I know it's complicated. I know your world and mine barely fit together on paper. I know there are things I'll never fully understand and choices you've made that I can't endorse, and a gap between what you are and what I'd want for you that might never close all the way." She held his eyes. "And I love you anyway. That is the honest truth." He stepped forward. Both hands, her face, the same as that corridor, same as the first time, but different. Everything different. This was chosen. Both of them here, entirely. No emergency making the decision for them. "Amara Ose," he said very softly. "Kang Jae-won," she said. "You are the most inconvenient thing that has ever happened to me." "You crashed through my door," she said. "Technically, that was you happening to me." He kissed her. When he pulled back, his forehead stayed against hers. "I love you," he said. "I don't have your words. I'm not someone who learned to say things like this. But I need you to know it is true. Whatever the word is for wanting someone safe and wanting them to stay and building something in a direction you've never gone before. That's the word," she said. "That's exactly it." He laughed. The real one. 3 days after the Han River. She was in the clinic on a Wednesday afternoon, finishing notes, Annie Dorcas humming in the kitchen, the building settled and warm. Everything for the first time in a very long time, feeling like it might be okay. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She remembered the last unknown number. She answered. The voice was female, Korean, young, and terrified. "Dr. Osei, you don't know me. I work in the Hukryong. Administrative. I'm calling because I found something. Something that belonged to Park Yoon-sik before he was removed." Amara went very still. Park Yoon-sik, the accountant. The thread Jae-won had found. The man who had been quietly feeding information to a rival organization. The one whose removal had supposedly ended everything. "What kind of something?" Amara said carefully. "Files. Documents. About you. About your clinic. About your fellowship." The girl's voice dropped lower. "But also communications. J1SSI's communications. Private. Going back 2 years. Yoon-sik was feeding information to someone. Not just the rival organization. Someone else." "Who?" Amara said. A pause. "That's what I'm trying to tell you. The person he was feeding information to, They're not outside the organization. They were never outside. Her voice went even lower. The attack on Jae-won SSI, the inquiry about you. Those are the small moves. Distractions. While something bigger was being prepared. The room felt smaller. What do you mean by bigger? There's a meeting tomorrow night. A meeting, Jae-won SSI has been told, is one thing. But the people attending, Dr. Osei, the people who will be in that room. A sound on her end. Different. Louder. Sharper. Her voice changed. I have to go. Don't tell him through the phone. You have to go to him. In person. Tonight. And you have to. The line went dead. Not hung up. Not dropped. Dead. With a sharp quality her body interpreted before her brain caught up. She sat in the silence of her clinic. Auntie Dorcas was still humming in the kitchen. Outside, Seoul went about its evening. And in her hand, a dead phone. In her chest, something cold and certain. Someone had listened to that entire call. Which meant someone knew that she knew. Which meant she was already moving. Coats, bay, keys. Out the back, not the front, through the alley Auntie Dorcas used for deliveries. Phone in her hand, calling Han Juno. Voicemail. Calling Jae-won. Voicemail. Wrong. Both wrong. Jae-won always answered. Always. She was running now. Down Itaewon's back streets, heart pounding, head running the calculation. The meeting. Tomorrow night's meeting. What if it had already started moving? She rounded a corner and stopped. In the streetlight ahead, a black vehicle was parked. Not Han Juno's. Different plates, different make. And the man leaning against it was someone she had never seen before, looking directly at her, waiting, as if he had known exactly which direction she would run. She took one step back. Dr. Osei, he said, there's no need to run. I'm not here to hurt you. He pushed off the vehicle. Kang Jae-won sent me. Han Juno would have called, she said. Han Juno's phone is currently unavailable. Ice. Why? She said carefully. Is Han Juno's phone unavailable? The man looked at her, and what she read in his face, not threat, not violence, but something almost like regret, told her the answer was something she would not recover from easily. Get in the car, doctor, he said. Please. There isn't much time. She looked at the car. She looked at this man. She looked behind her at the city, at the lights. Then she got in. His name was Choi Sung-min, and he had been with the Afro-Korean for 16 years. He told her this in the first 2 minutes, in the back of the vehicle as it moved through Seoul's nighttime traffic. And he told it to her not as reassurance, but as context, the kind of context a person offers when they want you to understand the weight of what they're about to say. How long has Jae-won known you? She asked. 16 years, Choi said. I was 19 when he brought me in. I have been loyal to him, and only him for every one of those years. He paused, which is why what I'm about to tell you is the hardest thing I have said to another person in my adult life. Amara held herself very still. The woman who called you, he said. Lee Soo-yeon. She was administrative, as she told you. And what she found in Yoon-sik's files, it was real. The communications. The information being fed to a second contact. He looked at the window, but Lee Soo-yeon did not make it past the call. The air left the car. What happened to her? Amara asked. He didn't answer. She understood what that meant. Who is the second contact, she said. Voice even, because even was the only option right now. His name is Shin Kyung-tae. Choi turned from the window and looked at her directly. He is the head of the Afro-Korean's legal division. He has been with the organization for 22 years. He attended Jae-won's father's funeral. He helped Jae-won take his first steps into leadership when he was 23 years old. The name meant nothing to her. The relationship meant everything. He's close, she said. The closest, Choi said, which is why it was never found. Yoon-sik was the visible thread. Shin Kyung-tae was the one holding it from the other end. Everything that happened, the faction, the attacks, the inquiry about your clinic, none of it originated with the lieutenant who was removed. That man was a tool. Shin Kyung-tae built the whole architecture. He has been building it for 2 years. 2 years. She thought about the communications Yoon-sik had been feeding. Private communications. Going back 2 years. Which meant Shin Kyung-tae had been inside Jae-won's life, watching, mapping, planning, while sitting at the same table, attending the same meetings, being called close. The meeting tomorrow night, she said. Choi's jaw tightened. Jae-won was told it's a reconciliation meeting. Senior members coming together after the resolution of the faction situation. Showing unity. A pause. It's not that. What is it? It's an ending, Choi said simply. The car stopped. She looked out the window. They were not at the Gangnam residence. They were in a neighborhood she didn't immediately recognize. Older buildings, quieter streets. Where are we? She said. Somewhere safe, Choi said. He asked me to bring you somewhere safe first, before I took you to him. He knows. She turned sharply. He knows what Shin Kyung-tae. He knows something is wrong, Choi said. Han Juno found the beginning of the thread an hour ago. They went dark, phones off, to move without being tracked. He looked at her steadily. They don't know about the meeting yet. They don't know it's Shin Kyung-tae. That's what Lee Soo-yeon was trying to tell you. He paused. And that is what you have to tell him. Tonight. Before tomorrow. She was already reaching for the door handle. Wait, Choi said. She stopped. Shin Kyung-tae knows about you, he said. He has known about you from the beginning. He was the one who gave your information to the police. He was the one who constructed the fellowship inquiry. Choi's voice dropped. And he is the one who had Lee Soo-yeon's line terminated tonight. Which means he knows she called you. Which means he knows that you know. The weight of it settled on her. He'll try to stop you reaching Jae-won, she said. Yes. How much time do I have? Choi checked his watch. The meeting is tomorrow at 9 p.m. But if Shin Kyung-tae knows you're moving, he won't wait until tomorrow to act. He can't afford to. She looked out the window at the quiet street. Then we move now, she said. Choi looked at her for a long moment. You're not afraid, he said. I'm terrified, she said. I'm still moving. Don't even think about closing this video. What happens in the next 10 minutes of this story changes everything. Stay with me and remember to subscribe, comment, share this video. Getting to Jae-won took 40 minutes and 3 vehicle changes. Choi moved her through the city with the practiced efficiency of someone who had been doing this for 16 years. Through neighborhoods she didn't know and through back entrances of buildings she would never have found alone. He said little. She asked no unnecessary questions. They moved. The second vehicle change happened in an underground car park in Mapo. While they waited for the third vehicle, her phone buzzed. A text. Jae-won's number. 3 words. Where are you? She typed back. Coming to you. Do not go anywhere. Do not trust anyone until I arrive. I mean anyone. She stared at what she typed. Then she deleted the last sentence. Because if Shin Kyung-tae's people were monitoring communications, that sentence told him exactly what she knew. She sent, coming to you. Do not go anywhere. 40 seconds. Then, Choi is with you? She looked at Choi. He's asking if you're with me, she said. Choi nodded. She typed, yes. A longer pause this time. Then, good. Come directly. I'll have the entrance clear. The third vehicle arrived. They moved. She had been to the Gangnam residence many times. She knew the elevator, the corridor, the double doors. She knew the view from the floor-to-ceiling window and the patient chair where Jae-won sat and the exact weight of the silence in that apartment when he was thinking hard about something. She had never arrived the way she arrived that night. Han Juno met her at the elevator. His face was the particular controlled blank of a man who had been running on adrenaline for hours and was not going to show it. He's inside, he said. He's a pause. The briefest fracture. He'll be glad you're here. She went in. Jae-won was standing at the window. Same as the day she'd come after the faction was resolved. Same posture, same position, but everything else was different. He was on the phone, speaking in rapid Korean, and he turned when he heard her, and the look on his face when he saw her was something she was going to keep for the rest of her life. He ended the call. She crossed the room and stood in front of him. I know who it is, she said. He looked at her face. He read it. She watched him process what he saw there. Tell me, he said. She told him. She told him everything Choi had told her, and the call from Lee Soo-yeon, and what the call meant, and what the silence at the end of it meant. And she told it plainly without softening, because he had asked her once to never protect him from information, and she was keeping that promise even now, even tonight, when the information was this. She watched his face as she spoke. She had seen Kang Jae-won angry before, controlled, cold, the temperature in her room dropping 2 degrees, and she had seen him soft in the late hours of quiet evenings when the control was simply no longer necessary. But she had not seen this. What moved across his face as she told him about Shin Kyung-tae was something older than anger, something that came from 22 years of proximity, of trust, of a man who had been at his father's funeral. When she finished, the room was completely silent. Jae-won, she said quietly. How long have I known him? He said. Not to her, to himself. Since I was 23. Since before the Afro-Korean was mine. He stopped. Started again. He taught me things. How to negotiate. How to read a room. How to know who was safe and who wasn't. A pause. And while he was teaching me that, he was... You couldn't have known, she said. I should have known. You can't see what's hidden behind 22 years of loyalty. No one can. He turned from the window, looked at her with an expression she couldn't fully read. The meeting tomorrow, he said. You can't go, she said. Choi said. I know what Choi said. He took a breath. I have to go. She stared at him. If I don't appear at that meeting, he said, Shin Kyung-tae knows the plan is compromised. He disappears. Everything he's built, every connection he has, every person he's positioned, they go underground. And I spend the rest of my life looking over my shoulder for a man who has been inside my organization for 22 years and knows every single thing about me. He looked at her steadily. I have to go, but I go knowing what it is. Which makes it different, she said. Which makes it winnable, he said. If I go knowing, if Han Juno goes knowing, if we have positioned correctly before we walk through that door, he paused. Then it ends tomorrow night. Completely. For good. The room was quiet. She understood the logic. She hated the logic. She also could not argue with it. Then I'm going with you, she said. Absolutely not. Jae-won. Amara. His voice was very quiet. There are things I will negotiate on and things I will not. This is not negotiable. I've been inside every single moment of this situation, she said. Shin Kyung-tae already knows what I know. I'm already part of this. Putting me in a separate location does not make me safer. It isolates me and removes me from the one person who is positioned to protect me. He looked at her. That's operational logic, she said. Not emotion. Tell me I'm wrong. A pause. You're not wrong, he said, with the expression of a man who deeply wished she were. Then I go with you. You stay in the vehicle, he said. External. With Choi. If anything goes wrong, Choi has instructions and I follow them. I understand. She stepped forward. But I stay with you until the building. He looked at her for a long moment, those black eyes entirely still. You walked into my world, he said quietly. You crashed through my door, she said. I'm going to spend the rest of my life hearing that. Probably, she said. He reached for her. One hand, the side of her face, thumb against her cheek. Gentle, like she was something extraordinary. I need tonight to not be the last night, he said. Very quietly. Just her. Her hand came up and covered his. It's not the last night, she said. You don't know that. I know it, she said. The same way I know medicine. Not as a theory. As a thing I feel in my hands. He looked at her. The thing on his face was the kind of feeling that precedes words and doesn't quite become them. He pulled her forward and pressed his mouth against her forehead and stayed there, just that, for a long moment. Stay close to Choi, he said against her hair. Stay alive, she told him. The meeting was in a building in Songpa, a private members club that the Afro-Korean used for internal gatherings. She had never been there. She sat in the back of the vehicle with Choi while Han Juno and Jae-won went inside, and she did not pray because prayer felt passive, so instead she ran probability calculations in her head the way she did before complicated procedures, identifying variables, mapping contingencies, following each branch to its outcome. Choi was on comms. She could hear fragments, voices, movement, the particular acoustic of a large room filling with people. She watched the building entrance. At 9:17 p.m., she heard Jae-won's voice through the comms, clear and controlled, addressing the room. She couldn't follow most of the Korean at that speed, but she caught the cadence. Not confrontational yet. Strategic. He was taking his time, letting them settle, letting them believe it was the meeting they thought it was. At 9:31 p.m., the cadence changed. She sat forward. Choi's hand went to his earpiece. At 9:33 p.m., something happened inside the building that she heard before she understood. A sound, not loud, but distinct, and then Choi's voice in rapid Korean into his comms, and then Han Juno's voice responding, and she was already reaching for the door handle before Choi turned to her. "Stay in the vehicle," he said. "What happened?" "Stay." His voice left no room. She stayed. She watched the entrance. Her hands were shaking, and she pressed them flat against her thighs. 60 seconds. The longest 60 seconds. Then the entrance opened. Han Juno appeared first. Then two of his men. Then Jae-won, walking, under his own power. Steady, unhurt, as far as she could tell from this distance. And she was assessing every visible inch of him with the eye of someone who had once sutured his chest closed on an examination table at 3 a.m. and knew exactly what damage to him looked like. Unhurt, she released the breath she had been holding for 17 minutes. He crossed to the vehicle, got him beside her. The door closed. He looked at her. She looked at him. His face was doing the thing after. The slight release, the controlled exhale of someone who had come through the other side of something and was only now allowing themselves to feel it. "Is it done?" she said. "Shin Kyung-tae is in Han Juno's custody," he said. The others who were positioned in the room, we had already moved on them before the meeting started. Before I walked in, it was already over. He just didn't know yet. She understood then. He had known it was a trap. He had walked into the trap after springing it from the outside. The meeting was his, not Shin Kyung-tae's. "You played him," she said. "I used the information you brought me," he said. "Every piece of it." She sat back. The adrenaline was leaving now, fast, the way it always did after something intense, and the shaking in her hands was making its return, and she breathed through it. His hand found hers in the dark of the vehicle. "Amara," he said. "I'm okay," she said. "I know." He tightened his hand around hers. "I know you are." They sat in the back of the vehicle while Han Juno's people did what needed doing, and the city moved past the windows, and she felt the specific exhaustion of someone who had been running on fear and resolve for 24 hours and had just been given permission to stop. "It's actually done," she said. "Not a question." "Yes. No more factions. No more Shin Kyung-taes. There will always be something," he said honestly. "I won't tell you otherwise. My world doesn't become simple." He paused. "But this particular chapter, yes. It's done." She nodded. They sat. "Tell me about the tomatoes again," she said. He looked at her. Then, slowly he smiled. "I'll take you to Busan," he said. "You can see the garden yourself. Your grandmother's building. The roof. She left it to me." He paused. "I've never taken anyone." She looked at his profile in the dark of the car. This enormous, complicated, dangerous man who kept rooftop tomato gardens from his childhood and ordered her coffee correctly and had spent the last 24 hours protecting her while walking into a trap. "I'd like that," she said. Busan came 3 weeks later, on a weekend that Jisoo blessed with approximately 47 separate congratulations, and Annie Dorcas marked by packing her a container of jollof rice to take on the train. The grandmother's building was in a neighborhood that had aged gracefully the way the best things did. The roof was smaller than she had imagined, but more alive. Tomatoes, as promised, and perennial herbs, and a single lemon tree in a pot that looked like it had been there since the building's construction. The view was the sea. They sat up there for 2 hours while the afternoon light moved across the water. He was quieter than usual. Not troubled quiet. Settled quiet. The particular silence of a person in the place they were most themselves. She understood it because she felt it too. Not belonging to this place, she was a Nigerian woman on a Korean rooftop. She was always going to be navigating that gap, but belonging to this moment. To this person in this moment. "What happens next?" she asked. "What do you want to happen?" he said. "I'm asking you." He looked at the sea for a moment. "I want to finish what I'm restructuring. The legitimate investments. The supply company. That's going well. There are others." A pause. "It's slow. It will be years, not months. And there are things that won't change quickly, things I've built that I can't simply unmake." He turned and looked at her directly. "I need you to know that. Not as a caveat. As honesty." "I know that," she said. "And the clinic," he said. "I want to see it grow. I want to see what it becomes if it has proper resources and time. He paused. I want to be part of that if you'll let me. You want to fund a medical clinic for African immigrants in Itaewon, she said. Legitimately, he said. Properly structured. Your name on it, not mine. I'm a silent partner. You are never silent, she said. I'm very silent, he said. You just don't experience that side. Because I bring out your non-silent side. Apparently. He almost smiled. She looked at the tomatoes. Then at him. Yes, she said. To all of it. The clinic. The years it will take. The things that don't change quickly. She held his eyes. And Busan, whenever we can get here. And the Han River in autumn. And Auntie Dorcas's jollof, which you're going to have to learn to eat properly. I eat it properly. You eat it like someone who has only ever read about jollof in a document. He looked genuinely offended. I eat it fine, he said. You pick out the pepper. The pepper is excessive. The pepper is essential. This is a fundamental cultural disagreement, and you're going to lose it. He looked at her. That expression, open, real, the one without the layers. The one she had seen for the first time when he laughed unexpectedly and looked surprised at himself. Teach me, he said, to eat jollof properly? Everything, he said. Simply. Teach me everything you want me to know. She reached across and took his hand on the railing. Below them, Busan lived its afternoon. Above them, the sky was the particular blue that existed only in late autumn, deep and cold and clear. And between them, on a rooftop with tomatoes and a lemon tree and a view of the sea, something that had begun with blood on a clinic floor and a word, help, was becoming something neither of them had a full name for yet. Something true, something chosen, something built between two worlds that had no business touching and had touched anyway, in the particular way that the most important things always happened, without permission, without a map, through a door that was never supposed to open. She squeezed his hand. He squeezed back. The call came on a train home. She almost didn't hear it over the noise of the KTX, the particular rush of the train at speed, Jae-won beside her reading something on his phone, the normal, quiet, beautiful normalcy of two people on a train after a weekend away. Her phone. Unknown number. She almost let it go to voicemail. She answered. Dr. Osei. Male. Korean. Voice she didn't recognize. Calm in a way that was entirely different from calm. The particular flatness of someone who had removed emotion from their voice as a deliberate act. Congratulations on the Songpa resolution. Kang Jae-won is a very capable man. She went still. Didn't speak. We haven't met, the voice continued. And we won't for some time. But I wanted to introduce myself in the way of these things. My name isn't important tonight. What's important is that you understand something. What? She said. Voice even. Shin Kyung-tae, the voice said was mine. Not his faction, not his ambition. Mine. He was a tool I built over 11 years and positioned with great care. And you, and Kang Jae-won, have removed him. A pause. Not angry. Not threatening. Thoughtful. Like someone revising a plan. Which tells me several things about you, Dr. Osei. About your value. About your role in his world. About what you represent to him. What do you want, she said. Tonight? Nothing. I'm introducing myself. Another pause. But I want you to understand that what ended in Songpa was one chapter. And I'm not a man who writes single chapters. His voice dropped slightly. Take care of yourself, doctor. And take care of him. He's going to need it. The call ended. The train rushed through the dark. Jae-won looked up from his phone. He saw her face. What happened, he said. She looked at him. At this man she loved. At this world they were building together, carefully and imperfectly and with full knowledge of what it cost. She looked at him and felt, simultaneously, the warmth of what they had just had in Busan and the cold returning weight of what she'd just heard. And she understood, with perfect clarity, that this was it. This was the thing nobody told you about the lives of people like Kang Jae-won. Not that they were dangerous. Not that they were complicated. But they were never finished. There was always another chapter. Always another voice on the other end of an unknown number. Always another door about to explode open. The question was never whether it was coming. The question was, who are you when it does? She looked at Jae-won. She thought about a woman named Folake who had died because she was afraid of the cost of showing up. She thought about her mother's voice, the one that meant absolute business. She thought about a clinic floor covered in blood at 2:47 in the morning and a single word: help. She put her hand over his on the armrest. "We have a problem," she said. He looked at her face, read it, and became very still. "Tell me," he said. She opened her mouth, and the train plunged into a tunnel, and the lights in the cabin flickered once, and outside the windows there was nothing but dark, and somewhere in Seoul, in a room neither of them had ever seen, a man with no name was already writing the next chapter. To be continued. Speech balloon comment right now. Who do you think the man on the phone is? Is he more dangerous than anyone we've seen so far? Because I promise you, you haven't seen anything yet. If this story wrecked you in the best way possible, drop a like. Right now, it takes 1 second, and it tells the algorithm that Amara and Jae-won deserve to be seen by everyone. Bell subscribe and hit the bell, because episode 3 drops soon, and when it does, nothing will ever be the same. The Kiss That Changed Everything, episode 2 coming. Don't sleep on it.